It was so beautiful to look at. In fact, the person that did them, that was the best thing about the level of that circle was great. But they couldn't get people, so they used to have the press stand in those circles because they couldn't get the people. Then I heard we lost. Oh, we lost. No, we're never going to let that happen again. But we've been abused by other countries. We've been abused by our own politicians, really more than other countries. I can't blame them. We've been abused by people that represent us in this country. Some of them stupid, some of them naive, and some of them crooked, frankly. But interestingly, it's often those allies that we consider to be friends that have been the greatest abusers. We have some great abusers. I'll give you an example. The European Union sounds so nice. The European Union of countries. Oh, it's so nice. They're brutal. We have a $200 billion deficit with them, now higher than that, 250 something. And like I asked at the time, Angela, how many Chevrolets do we have in the middle of Berlin? Oh, I do not know. Perhaps none. You're right, Angela. You're right. How about Frankfurt? How many do we have? How many Fords do we have in Frankfurt? Oh, I don't think any. And yet they send their cars to us like a bunch of dummies we are. BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, by the millions and millions and millions. And we're not doing that. We're not doing that crap anymore, okay? Now they're going to have to play by our rules. They're going to have to play by our rules. But China, of course, was the biggest abuser. I mean, they were a professional abuser. They did things to us, and they go down as a developing nation. We are a developing nation. Well, we're a developing nation, too. Just take a look at Detroit. Detroit's a developing area, a hell of a lot more than most places in China. So we're not going to let this happen any longer, and I don't think it'll be possible for bad politicians to stop it. I don't think so, because we've suffered too long and too hard. And I fixed much of it during my 4 years, but felt that during the COVID period, it would not be the right time to be doing this with countries. I renegotiated with Japan, I renegotiated with South Korea, I renegotiated with many. But, you know, with the COVID, everybody was just literally devastated by that scourge. It was devastated. It was not the right time. So I had to slow it up a little bit. I was hitting them really hard. Shinzo Abe was great. He was assassinated. What a great man he was. But I went to Shinzo. I said, Shinzo, I got to know him very well. He was really a friend of mine. He was a great man, actually, loved by the Japanese people. He got sick. He had to take a leave of absence for a period of time, but he was going back, and he would have gone back and easily gone back. And he was just getting ready to do it. He was much better. I think he was probably cured of what he had. And he was going back. But I said to him, Shinzo, we have to talk about trade. I'm sorry to bring it up. I'm sorry. This is the most one-sided deal I've ever seen. You send millions of cars to us, and we can't send you a car. They didn't accept any of our cars. You send all of your farm products to us, and you don't want to accept our farm products. I'm sorry, Shinzo, we're going to have to negotiate something. He looked at me and goes, I know. I said, what do you know? He said, well, I know that you were going to be coming back to me, and I know that it hasn't been fair. I said, well, how did it happen? He said, well, we'd ask for things, and the Americans would agree to it. Your representatives, your presidents, Republicans too, by the way. I'm not talking just Democrats. He said we were friends. He would say this. I probably wouldn't say it if he were around, because it's not very nice, but he told the truth. I said, how did you get these deals? He said, we would ask, and they would approve. And we were amazed ourselves, but I knew you'd be coming to see me. And I said, I have to see you, Shinzo. And we made a new deal with Japan, but we were stuck with an old one, so I couldn't negotiate as good as I normally would. But we made it palatable, and we were going to really make it palatable when this one came up. But he was great. But he looked at me, I'll never forget it, quite. He said, he called me Donald. Donald, I knew that you would be coming back because I knew that you understood it. But he also said that other people didn't. It was, actually it was quite sad, actually. And it's that way. I would look at these deals and say, who negotiated these deals? They were so bad. It's amazing that we even exist. But we have 36 trillion in debt. We do have 36 trillion. We can't forget that. So it's not like, oh, gee, that's been, we've been a little bit unlucky or something. No, we've been just, for years and years and years, we've been accumulating. We'd have these deficits that are monstrous. We had 5, 6, 7, 800 billion deficit with China, just alone with China. And today it was announced we have the highest deficit we've ever had, almost $2 trillion. Think of that. We have and we have the highest deficit we've ever had with China. And that won't last long. It's not going to last long. We'll be able to do something about it. Because China wants to do business with us, but they think we're stupid. They think we're stupid people. And then they see our president, and then they see a person that is representing the Democrat Party and got no votes and was the first one out. She was the first one out. Think of it. She was the first one out. She never made it to Iowa. 22 people running, and she was the first one to quit. And now she's running, and it's all right. But nobody's ever had to run against two people before. First, I had to run against him. Then we had the debate, and his numbers weren't good, and he, looked like he was going to lose. So they said, "You're going to lose, and we want you out." And eventually, he agreed to go out. He didn't want to. He's a very angry man, by the way, and he hates her. And then it was a question. They have a person in the state who some people talked about. They had a lot of people, but they had about 12 people, and they put her in. 12 people plus her. She was number 13. She was rated number 13, too. There had 12 people that they wanted more, but they didn't want to be politically incorrect, and they chose her, and we're running against her. But if she gets in, it'll be a disaster for this country. Basically, if a country or any country is charging us tariffs, very important, reciprocal. If they're charging us tariffs for a certain product or tariffs at all, if they're charging us tariffs at all, which almost all of them do, then we will likewise charge them tariffs, and we will quickly reciprocate. In other words, we have countries that are charging us 150% tariff, and we charge them 2%. And I actually went to a politician, a senator from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You'll figure out, because he wasn't able to run because I wouldn't endorse him, because I called him the anti-tariff person. I thought he was not a bright person. And he was one of the few that said, no, we cannot charge tariffs. I said, but they're charging us 150%. So can we charge them 100%? Sir, no, we can't. Why? It's not free trade. I said, really not free trade? Well, what about them? No, sir, it's not free trade. Can we charge them 50? They're charging us 150. Can we charge them 50? He goes, no, sir, it's not free trade. I said, you're either the dumbest human being I've ever met, or you're a crook. One or the other. And he's no longer a senator. He decided not to run. But I think it was a disgrace. I had a lot of problems with him. But basically, one of two things will happen. They're going to call us, or I will call them and say, look, we can continue to play this game, or we can save a lot of energy and pain and bookkeeping, and we'll just all drop the tariffs. Right? We'll just all drop the tariffs. Or we can get paid royally every time a shipment of their goods comes to our shores, and we'll make a lot of money. One way or the other, we win. But it's reciprocity will probably, I think for the most part, they're going to drop the tariffs. Right now, they're not going to drop them. We have countries that are charging us 100%, 150%. Think of it. And we charge them nothing. It's been it's been a pillaging of our country. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. This has been going on for a long time. I started changing it a lot fast. I changed it with a lot of countries. There are a lot of countries don't like me. You know, I get always bad publicity. This one doesn't like me. Germany doesn't like me. A lot of countries don't like me. They say, who do you like better, Sleepy Joe Biden or Trump? Oh, I like Biden better. Yeah, because he let them do what they're doing. He doesn't have a clue, the guy. He just goes to sleep at 4 o'clock every damn day. He doesn't have a clue. And he's destroying, they're destroying our country. You see, that's the real threat to democracy, stupid people. That's the threat. Our biggest threat to democracy is stupid people. But there's a third thing that can happen, and that's the fact that if they want to avoid this payment, and this is the best thing of all, they can come in and build a plant or a factory in the United States and spend all of their money and build, and I don't care what country it is, and they're going to hire American workers, and they're going to have a factory in the United States. And then you don't have to pay a tariff, and won't it be beautiful? We'll have job numbers like you've never had before, and that's actually, to me, the best of the three things. So it's a very simple thing to understand. And they've been doing it for years. But they do it very quietly, and they do it intelligently, and a lot of people don't see what they're doing. As an example, you want to sell cars in China, they tell you, build your plant in China. If you don't build a plant in China, we're going to charge you a tariff. You're never going to pay it. So a lot of people go over to China, and they build their plant. The only question I have is, where do we stop with reciprocity? Because, frankly, we have much more to offer. And they've been screwing us for so many years that we're allowed to get some of that back. So I say, do we want to stop on an even basis? We won't do this, we won't do that. Or do we want to stop on a basis, you don't do it to us, but we're going to still do it to you a little bit? And that's where I am, I think. And in a way, they owe it to us, In a way, they owe it to us, because they've been taking advantage of us for decades. And in a way, and it's injured us. We're injured. We're an injured country from trade. And, with NATO, when I got there, 28 countries they had at the time, and only 7 were paid. The rest of them weren't paying, or they were paying a smaller amount than they were supposed to pay, including Germany, by the way. Germany wasn't paying, can you believe? Because they said, we're stupid. We're going to take care of them anyway. Why should they pay? A lot of the countries felt that way. And I made them pay. I said, you got to pay. And one person at a very closed meeting, press knew about it a little bit, but they never reported it because it was a good thing, not a bad thing. So naturally, you don't hear about that. But it was at a meeting, and he stood up, the head of a country, one of the countries. He said, so does that mean that if we don't pay, you will not protect us from Russia? It used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. Sort of the same thing. I said, that's what it means. You will not protect us? I said, are you delinquent? Yes. Let's say we're delinquent. I will not protect you under any form. You will not be protected. And the following day, we took in billions and billions of dollars. The money came in, and Stoltenberg, the Secretary General, a good man, he said it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Obama would come and make a speech and leave. Bush would come and make a speech and leave. Trump would come and look at the statement and say, man, because we were almost paying for all of NATO. So we were getting screwed on NATO and screwed on trade. A double. Nobody else would have done. This is crazy. So we're protecting you, and you're taking advantage of us on trade. I said, sorry, we're not going to take it anymore. But the money came. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars in NATO. Hundreds of billions. And by the way, they should be paying 3 to 4%, not 2%, okay? They're 2%. They should be much higher than that. But that's up for whoever is going to be the next president. I think Kamala, it's not going to be high on her list. I don't think anything that we're talking about today is high on her list. The whole country is going to be like You want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president. You're going to have a mess on your hands. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed, along with Newsom, California. And we're not going to let her do that to this country. We're not going to let it happen. So we are the piggy bank that everyone wants, that someday we will continue along the path. We've been, really, it's been an amazing path. It's been a horrible period of time, but almost the last 4 years, we will be, I will tell you that if I get elected, we will be a piggy bank stronger than ever before, but we will be a fool no longer. We will, if you get her, lose our wealth. We're going to lose our power, and we'll also lose our reserve currency status, which will be like really losing a war. If we lose that, it'll be horrible, but we're losing it right now. You're losing your reserve currency, the dollar. So many countries aren't participating. Look, China wants to take that over. That's one of the many things that they want to take over. We can deal with China, you know. We can deal with China, and we can deal with Russia, and we can deal with North Korea. Obama, at our meeting prior to taking over, when I took over, it's this ritual. At a meeting, and he said, the biggest problem is North Korea. And very quickly, it was nasty for a while. Little rocket man, a lot of insults. Remember when he said, I have a red button on my desk? I said, I have one too, but mine's bigger and mine works. Remember that? He said that. And a lot of people were saying, this is getting to be very heated. And then he called and he wanted to meet, and we met, and I got along great with him. I hate to say it because the press goes crazy when you say that, but that's a good thing. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. A lot of nuclear weapons. But we got along very well. You had no problem. Nobody was threatened after that. We got along. They're threatened now. You could very well end up in World War III right now. You're very close to it. You're closer than ever. This is the closest we've ever come to World War III. You are so close to it because you have incompetent people in the White House. So that would reduce us if we lose the dollar. That would reduce us to third world status very quickly. But again, I would come into play, and tariffs would come into play, and I'd call those countries that want to stay away, but they do business. They come in and they take our money and they take our jobs like we're, like just so easily. And I would call them and I say, if a country, let's say, ready to go to China with their currency or someplace else, but China's about 99% of the problem, in all fairness, I would say to them, if you do that, I'm going to hit you with tariffs like you've never seen before, or I'm going to not let you trade with the United States, and I'm going to also hit you with tariffs. Double whammy if you get anything through, but you're not, because we're not going to do any business with you. And they will then call us and they will say, sir, we have decided that we love the dollar very much and we're going to stay. That's what they will say every single time. So, you know, tariffs are a very important thing. They need a PR agent to straighten out that word. If I was Mr. Tariff, I would say, please get me a PR agent. I have to straighten out. It's one of the most beautiful words in the whole world. It's going to make us wealthy again. The other word is reciprocity. Is going to make us wealthy again. We're going to be a very wealthy country very quickly. Very, very quickly. You know, our greatest wealth probably proportionately was in the 1880s and 90s and the early 1900s, where we had so much cash, they would set up committees. They didn't know what to do with their wealth. We had such wealth in this country. They didn't know what to do with their wealth. They had no, they would set up, we had so much money, all from tariffs. There was no income tax. And then they went to the income tax stuff, and it was a whole different story. Then you had the Depression. A lot of people said, oh, tariffs maybe caused it. It wasn't. Tariffs came in 1932 after the Depression. They tried putting tariffs on to see if they could save. They said, we got to save this thing. But it was long gone. It was gone. I will do this with each and every abandoning country if they abandon us, meaning they abandon our currency. And our reserve currency will be stronger than ever before. We'll have everybody in there. Everybody will be happy to be in there, including China. Because I'll tell China the same thing. If you want to play games with us, we're not going to trade with you. You know, they make $1 trillion a year with us. They built our military. They make so much money. I said, we're not going to do any business. We'll go cold turkey. A lot of people would like to do that anyway. But we're going to go cold turkey, and we're going to go with 100% and 150% tariffs. So if anything does get through, you're going to have to pay tariffs. You know, China is very smart, I'll tell you. When I put the tariffs on the steel, they were very unhappy, but they didn't tell me. They said, it doesn't matter, we're China. I said, oh, it doesn't bother them, so then ask them for more. That was my initial reaction. We started at 25%. I said, they said it doesn't matter. And I said, all right, so ask them for more. So we asked them for more, 10%. It didn't bother them. That's what they said, but it did bother them. But they're great players. They're great poker players. It didn't bother them. I said, well, ask them for more. Ask them for more, until it bothers them. And finally, I got a call from President Xi. He said, you're killing us with the tariffs. And then we got along after that, you know. It's very strange. But they're great poker players. They're great negotiators. All these countries are great negotiators. The only one that isn't is the U.S. We're the dumb country. We're like the pot of gold that's rapidly shrinking. So very much like I told them that if they buy oil from Iran, I would not be trading with them. You know, Iran was broke when I left office. And I don't want them to be broke. I want them to be a strong country. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. And you protect Israel. And frankly, you protect the Middle East. I want to protect the Middle East, the whole Middle East. And I hate to see this death to everybody. People that have nothing to do with anything are being killed all over the place on both sides. Nobody wants that. We have to protect everybody. And China didn't buy any oil. I said, if you buy 1 barrel of oil from Iran, 1 barrel, I said, then you're going to not do any business with the United States, and we're going to impose tariffs if you do get something through, very substantial, over 100%. And they said, we'll pass. I told this to President Xi. He said, we'll pass. They didn't do any business, and Iran was, and I said this to many countries, by the way, not just China. And, I mean, many countries treat us worse than China. You want to really know the truth. But China seems to be the one we talk about. But before I came along, nobody talked about China. They had a free pass. They were going, you know, run silent, run low, right? You know that expression? Submarine. Nobody knew. But I woke up our country a little bit. But Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah. And I didn't want to see them broke. I want them to be thriving, but I just had to negotiate. The only problem was, he was the only problem. The election took place, and it was very shocking to a lot of people. And when they took over, they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. They actually did the opposite. They allowed everybody to go and buy oil. They allowed everybody to do all of those things, and Iran became very wealthy again. They now have $300 billion in cash. They're very wealthy. They control Iraq, which was a stupid move, going Iraq. I remember I said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But I said it as a civilian. Then they did it. I said, okay, you've done it. Keep the oil. But they didn't do that either. So we go in, we blow up countries, and then we leave. We got nothing except dead people all over the place on both sides. How stupid are we? That was a Cheney deal and a Bush. How stupid are we? Not just Democrats. It's both. I'm equally angry at both, because we have humanity to think about also. You do. You have humanity to think about. And all of these things, they should have never happened. Ukraine should have never happened. October 7th should have never happened. If you had smart people at the White House that knew something, a little bit of something, it wouldn't have happened. Think of the world, how different it would be. You wouldn't have Ukraine, Russia. You wouldn't have had October 7th. You wouldn't have this horrible thing that's going on. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had the worst, most embarrassing day in our history. We were leaving Afghanistan. I'm the one that got him down, but I would have kept Bagram. You know why I would have kept arguing? It was 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. 1 hour away. So you see, the ideas and the policy are important, but the most important thing of all is the messenger. Because I could give that same message to a stiff, and it wouldn't resonate at all with the other side. You have to have the right messenger. Somebody said, oh, we love Trump policy, but we don't like Trump. I think they do. They said that women don't like me. I think women love me because they want to be safe. And with me, they're safe. With other people, they're not safe. It's true. It's true. So remember, I want tariffs, but a very, very big, easy, and uncomplicated part of it is reciprocity, because that comes along with it very simply. And all tariffs against our nation must come off. They have to come off. They got to come off immediately, because we're going to meet them with an equal tariff, and they will come off for the most part. But if they don't, they have to pay a big price. So next, in addition to this rather easy thing to understand. By the way, does everyone understand this? Does everybody? Do you understand? Is there anybody that doesn't understand it? Would you please raise your hand? Raise your hand. Does anybody not understand it? See? How simple is that? I'd like to see the person. I really don't, sir. Then they have a front page story. Then we had a couple of dummies in the room. But we will implement further protections for critical industries that are fundamental to our national interests, and those include, above all, steel and the car industry. The car industry is critical to us. We can't fight a war if we can't make cars and trucks and engines and transmissions and drivetrains. Surrendering our car industry is not an option. We have to make our car industry brilliant again. We have to make it bigger. I'm going to make it bigger than it was ever before. Now, I'm going to make it very quick it's going to go, but to bring that to that level, I guess I'll need a little more time, but I won't have that time. But I'm going to hand it over to people. We're going to make this country so strong, and it's going to be so much easier to run. And I think we're going to end up actually having a lot of support from the other party. I really believe that. I think it's too basic. It's too basic. So as I said, China is currently building gigantic auto plants in Mexico, and they think that they're going to sell all of these cars into the United States, which would destroy Michigan, totally destroy your state. But it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not even close. They might as well stop building the damn plants. They are giants. Sir, you really have to see them. I said, I don't want to see them. I will impose whatever tariffs are required, 100%, 200%, 1,000%. They're not going to sell any cars into the United States with those plants. They're building them close to our border so that they can have easy shipping, because they're used to having stupid people to deal with. We're not going to let it happen. Those jobs are coming back to Michigan, and they're coming back to other states, and they're coming back to our country, and they're going to make America great again. That's it. And to that end, I'm announcing today that upon taking office, I will formally notify Mexico and Canada of my intention to invoke the 6-year renegotiation provisions of the USMCA that I put in. That was the hardest thing I had to get. They didn't want that. They wanted to have it long. But I wanted to, because there's always like little tricks they want to play. I said, nope, I want to be able to renegotiate in 6 years, otherwise we're not making the deal. And I got it, and it's coming due very soon. Oh, I'm going to have a lot of fun. And that'll address these concerns. And it'll also seek strong new protections against transshipment so that China and other countries cannot smuggle their products and auto parts into the United States tax-free through Mexico, to the detriment of our workers and our supply chains. They smuggle this stuff in. They don't pay anything. We're going to have very strong language on that. It's not hard once you know about it, but no politician knows about it. You know, and when they signed the NAFTA deal, there were some mistakes made, typos, like typos. There were mistakes made, and they were going to take care of it the following day. 30 years later, they said, whatever happened? Like mistakes like on the numbers, you know, which were always against us. Nobody ever did anything about it except me. I terminated NAFTA. That's a pretty big thing. A lot of people said it would be impossible to do. I got it done. And we have a great deal. Now what we have to do is make it much better even. And we'll be able to do that very shortly. But while I have the Build It in America plan, Kamala Harris has the Build It in China plan. This is really a Build It in China plan. She's going to destroy our country. Her plan is so stupid. Every policy she has rewards companies for shipping jobs overseas. Most significantly, Kamala is a giant tax hiker. The tax queen, they call her, is demanding a shocking, to be honest with you, after watching her on 60 Minutes and on watching that horrible statement that she made, they call it a word salad. I don't really like those words because it was really worse than that. But after watching that, I don't think she's interested in 33. I don't think she has any idea what's happening, okay? I think she's dumber than hell. And we've had enough of that for 4 years. We're not going to have it any longer because we're not going to be a country if we have it. You will see that. You've got to see. No, you've got to see. And to think that a member of the media under this big press corps where they get free licensing, they shouldn't have free licensing when they do that. And they change her answer. They take it out, throw it away, and put in a totally different answer in order to protect her, and they get caught. CBS should lose their license. You know, they have a license. They have a license which is worth billions of dollars, and they pay nothing. All of these networks, they're all crooked as hell. You saw that with ABC. They go after me, not her. They go after JD. How good is JD doing? Isn't he doing great? They go after JD, but not this character that calls himself a knucklehead. I've never seen that in a debate. He said knuckle. I don't want to say I'm a knuckle because if I say, well, I'm quoting him, they'll say Trump just called himself. That's how crooked they are. So I say, well, actually, you know, it's amazing that he calls himself a knucklehead. Normally I'd say, you know, he calls. So I don't want to do that because if I say that, they're going to say, see, Trump called himself a knucklehead. No, I don't call myself a knucklehead. I call myself somebody that wants to make our country great again. Very simple. The tax queen is demanding a shocking 33% tax hike on all domestic production. That means that everybody's going to leave our country and go to another country where they can pay 15, 16, 18, 19%. It's very simple. It's not that complicated. She wants the largest capital gains tax. Largest gains tax. Think of this. In the history of our country, she even plans to tax unrealized capital gains. Think of it. Unrealized. Think of what that means. It's an unrealized gain, and she wants to tax it. How do you do that? Okay? She wants to tax. And a lot of people are rich, but they have no money. You know? They have good land, or they have something, or they put all their money into their business because they want to have a business that's going to get better and better and grow and grow. But they're rich, but they have no cash. Now they're going to have to go out and borrow a lot of money to pay a tax. They're going to have to get good appraisers. They're going to have to get a lot of accountants. The only one who's going to make money are appraisers and accountants and lawyers. But those people, they're all going to leave. They're all going to go to other countries. So if a company succeeds, it must give a lot of its value to the government. And if it doesn't succeed, the government doesn't take any risk. They don't lose, but they do lose really because they lose all those jobs and all of those important things. If the tax queen gets her way, every company in the United States will leave. I mean, they're going to leave. They're not staying here. There's such competition for companies. It's like a basketball player, a baseball player, a football player. There's a lot of competition, no different, just bigger numbers. Altogether, Kamala's $4.1 trillion tax hike is projected to reduce GDP by 2%, raise the typical family's taxes by at least $3,000 a year, lower wages by 1.2%, and kill at least 1 million full-time jobs. Other than that, I think it's quite a good plan. It's just crazy. I will not let that happen to our country. I will keep your taxes low and your job numbers high. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have the highest job. We had the highest job numbers in history in my administration, we're going to make that look like peanuts. The theft of our companies, factories, jobs, and wealth by foreign countries is over. We are not going to allow it to happen anymore. And many of those who left will be coming back, and they're going to be coming back fast. They want to come back. They want to come back. I produced that with the money. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars came back into our shores once I made that change in the tax law, which had to get approved by Congress, believe it or not. Next, to reduce costs for both manufacturers and consumers, I will remove 10 old regulations for every new regulation. Every time we put on a regulation, we cannot put it on unless, and I did that, and that's what gave us, we had it up very high. We had about 7-1, it turned out, and we had it up high. Now we're going to bring it up to a newer level, a higher level. And I will start by terminating Kamala's insane electric vehicle mandate on day one. It's killing our car industry. Kamala's EV mandate is killing the U.S. auto industry. It requires that within just a few years, 67% of all new cars and trucks must be electric. And it doesn't work for trucks at all. Because of their weight, their payload, doesn't work at all. And because they can't go far. I was with the truckers recently because they came to see me because they don't know what to do. They say they want us to go all electric with trucks. And I was with one man who was a giant in the industry, older guy, very smart, just like 29,000 trucks, 29. I said, what the hell, 29,000? He said, yes, sir. And I've been buying trucks for 50 years. And every single damn year, those trucks got bigger and better and more efficient and more beautiful. They could carry more payload. They could do every single year. And then we put apartments on those trucks. He called it an apartment. That's on the cab where they put these things where they can live. He said, and those damn apartments now are so beautiful that you'd love to live in one of them. And he said, I don't know. I'm going to leave Mar-a-Lago and move into the back of a truck, but it's beautiful. I can't think of worse things, to be honest with you. It's sort of cool, right? Travel all over the country. But he said they get better. So then I said, well, what's wrong with the electric? He said, if we go from New York to Los Angeles, we have to stop 6 times, and you'll never find a charger. But assuming you had chargers, which you won't have, they built, as you know, big story, 8 chargers someplace in the Midwest. They spent $9 billion. This is like a gas pump with electricity in it, right? Boom. They spent $9 billion, and 3 of them don't work. Now, if you did the whole country at that rate, it would cost you $10 trillion, $10 trillion. But they said, we have to stop 6 times, and they're long stops, much longer than fill it up like a tank. He said, with a big load of diesel, we can get all the way, and we can even start coming back without a stop. And the truck gets lighter as you go along. The other thing he said that people don't know is that an electric truck would be 2.5 times heavier because batteries are very, very heavy. And that would mean you'd have to rebuild every bridge in the United States of America because they're not designed for that kind of a weight. So every bridge in the United States would have to be rebuilt. And also, he said, a couple of other little problems. He said the battery is so big it would take a lot of our payload. We'd lose 40% of our payload. We'd have to have battery in there instead. I said, so when you tell them this, if you're a child and somebody said that, you'd say, okay, let's think about it in 10 years or 20 years from now. Doesn't work. He said, we tell them, they said, we don't care, just you're going to order all electric trucks. This is like a dictatorship. These people are sick. Now they want to make our Army tanks all electric. I saved the Army tanks up in Ohio where they make them. And because I hated the fact that they were closing it. When I was president-elect, I got called from the great Jim Jordan, congressman from Ohio, in Lima. They have a plant that manufactures the Army tanks. They were going to close it. And I looked, I went there, the complexity, the talent, the people they had working there was incredible. And I said, we're not closing this plant. And now it's the #1 producer. It's incredible. But now they want to make Army tanks that are electric because they want to go into a country and blast the crap out of it in an environmentally friendly way. But these people are crazy. And the problem is the electric battery is so big and so heavy that it would have to be in like a wagon that a child pulls. Behind the tank, they'd pull in a battery. And it would have to be, and it doesn't work. They want to make everything electric. And yet, think about it. They want to make everything electric, and I'm a big fan of electric. I think it's great. There are certain applications. I mean, Elon Musk endorsed me powerfully, okay? We love him. And and his product is incredible. In fact, he's doing a new product today. It's got no steering wheel on it. Do you know that? He's out in some place announcing a new product with no steering wheel. I said, well, that wouldn't be for me, but is that really the future? He knows. I'm giving him full credit. I think he's incredible. He gave me the most powerful endorsement. He was in Butler with us the other day. You probably saw that. And it was great. He said the whole country, he said America will never survive if Trump doesn't get in because he knows the alternative. It's two people. It's like the alternative is not acceptable. He's a strong guy, smart guy, brilliant. But among other things, he does the Tesla, and it's great. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to have that. And, I tell a story about him. I'm very close to him. I have a lot of respect for him. I think he respects me. He gave me the strongest endorsement you could ever get. But, he never once came up to me and said, could you stop knocking electric cars? Because I don't knock them. I think they're incredible, but it's for a group of people. I love them. I think they're great. But, it's for a certain group of people where they might work even better. But not everybody, because some people want to go long distances. They will cost more. You have the fact that they probably are going to be made in China. Remember this. I said, we have more oil and gas. We have more liquid gold under our feet. So why would we do the batteries? Where China has that, we have liquid gold. So we want gasoline-propelled cars. But it's even worse than that because Kamala also co-sponsored a bill to impose a 100% ban on the sale of all new gas-powered cars and trucks. So she's going to ban them, which would kill an estimated 200,000 U.S. auto jobs, including almost every job that you have in a place called Michigan. How do you like that idea? She has a ban. She has a ban where we're not going to allow them to be made. And honestly, for some like I'm telling you about the Army tanks, I'm telling you about trucks, the battery's not going to work. It's not going to work. The electric's just not going to work. Maybe in 20 years, 30 years, who knows? But it's not going to work. What it will do is drive our country into a depression. The entire industry would go to China for the making of these all-electric cars and trucks. The auto industry would be non-existent or dead. It will be dead. It will never be able to survive. This is one of the major reasons why I've been overwhelmingly endorsed by the rank and file membership of the Teamsters, including 62% of the Teamsters members right here in Michigan. The rank and file of the Teamsters nationwide. The firemen, the policemen. The policemen, we have 100% of the police. I don't think there's one police person in the whole country that endorsed this lunatic. I don't believe there's one policeman in the country. We just got a 400,000 group of police. The Fraternal Order, it's the biggest group in the country. But we've got just about every sheriff's group, every law enforcement group is because we're going to stop crime. She's not going to stop crime. She wants open borders. She wants people to pour into our country and destroy our country and to move into your little towns and cities and your big towns and cities too and destroy our country. She wants open borders. They put a little trap out there a couple of months ago. They made it a little bit tougher. But they didn't stop airplanes from flying in with hundreds of thousands of people coming into our country. They're destroying our country. We can't let it happen. The rank and file of the UAW members are also with us, too. If you go to the UAW, the auto workers, they're for us also. Sean Fain, who I never met, the head of the United Auto Workers, did a tremendous disservice to the people he represents by allowing the government of the United States to put out an all-electric mandate. Because after I terminate the mandate, my first day in office, I will terminate it on my first day. We will go back to making electric cars, gasoline-propelled cars, hybrids, and anything else that comes along at the time. Probably hydrogen I'll do without, because when they blow up, you are unrecognizable. I don't like that. The hydrogen car, they keep talking about hydrogen. The problem is, when it has a problem, it blows up violently. So the beautiful woman sitting in the fourth row, you'd never recognize her again. And somehow I don't want to be able to, I'm not going to buy one of those suckers. I don't care how good if they say they're really working quite well now, that's not going to be good enough. But they talk about hydrogen, who knows? The EV mandate is also a costly disaster for working families. To comply with Kamala's quotas, automakers are forced to jack up the costs of gas-powered vehicles artificially to push consumers toward the very expensive electric alternative. So they're going to raise the prices on one to subsidize the other. That's not a good thing. So Kamala gives rich people $7,500 tax breaks to buy luxury electric cars. A lot of people don't know that, yet she makes the working class pay more for a entry-level car that's powered by gasoline, which we have so much of. And I will reverse this also, this injustice on day one. Kamala's EV mandate is one of the most demented regulations that's been conceived. I mean, we have a lot of them, but this is about as bad as it gets. It'll destroy U.S. auto manufacturing immediately. It'll destroy our trucking-based supply chain, destroy our electric grid, destroy our military, destroy our roads and bridges with vehicles that are far too heavy. We can't even use them. Destroy the state of Michigan, and it'll totally destroy our middle class. That's why I will not only repeal the federal mandate, I will also stop California from imposing any state-level mandate to ban gas-powered cars and trucks. And it's very simple to solve. Vote for Trump, and the gasoline engine will be here for a long, long time. They're going to be here for a long time, and they've got it to a point where it gives very little pollution, very little. It's amazing what they've been able to do, but it's what people want. It's much less expensive. It's what people want. The next part of our effort to bring back domestic manufacturing will be to restore the power, confidence, and the wealth of the American consumer. We have to let them be wealthy again. We have to let them make money, not give money like they did. That's also energy. What their stupid energy policies caused inflation, but also the fact that they gave so much money away that was a very bad thing to do. They thought they were going to buy people's votes. Well, they've already spent that money. And they paid for it, actually, more so because of the cost of inflation for them. Over the past 4 years, Kamala's inflation catastrophe has cost the typical family $29,000 in price hikes. So inflation has cost them $29,000. New and used car prices are up over 29%. Average interest rates for new cars has doubled and tripled and quadrupled. Meanwhile, repair and maintenance costs are up 32%. Car parts are up 22%. Car insurance premiums, what's going on with that? Some places it's up 100%. And the cost of gasoline is up 62%. By driving up prices and interest rates, Kamala's inflation disaster sent car payments way up and car sales way down. Your numbers are terrible, by the way. For the first time ever, the all-in cost of car ownership is now over $1,000 a month. Never been anywhere near that. More than 20% of the median worker's wage just to have an average car. This is a catastrophe for the American dream and a dire crisis for American automakers. One of my top priorities will be to quickly defeat inflation and make America affordable again. We will quickly defeat it. We have to bring down prices. I will cut taxes, slash regulations, curb wasteful spending, and unleash energy production. It'll all happen very quickly. This will rapidly drive prices down, lower interest rates, and put more money into the pockets of American consumers. It'll also bring your grocery bill way down. I have more complaints on grocery. The word grocery, you know, it's sort of simple word, but it sort of means like everything you eat. The stomach is speaking. It always does. And I have more complaints about that. Bacon and things going up double, triple, quadruple. As part of this effort, I will pass major tax cuts for workers, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our seniors. And here's what I told you about before. The reason you're all sticking around, because I had to make, I said, do they mind a little bit longer speech? Because, you know, it is a big subject. No, sir. They love it. And I haven't noticed anybody leaving. There was one gentleman over there, but he came back. He went to the bathroom. And what the fake news will do is take a picture of one empty seat, say, people are fleeing. No, they don't flee. Nobody's fleeing. Nobody's leaving. I always watch. If they start to leave, I just end the speech. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to make America great again.
Well, that was a tremendous amount of information that you've given to us, and we'll see that the questions, you've really answered most of them already.
I think so.
I mean, you've really done a great job. And so what I thought I would do is to jump to a couple personal questions. The first one that I've always been intrigued with, you have an enormous amount of energy. I haven't seen anybody like you in my lifetime that keep on going and going and going, in spite of sometimes some rather negative you know, responses and forces here in our country. How do you do it?
Like a bullet to the ear. So I had parents that were great. It's you have good parents, you sort of, I believe in that theory, it helps. But I have two parents that were energetic. They lived for a long time. They were around for a long time. They were great people, but my father had tremendous energy, and my mother did too, and it's a little bit that, I think, more than anything else. And I enjoy what I do, and I love this, you know, despite I could be right now in the most beautiful ocean on the sand, exposing my really beautiful body, so beautiful, to the sun and the surf. Skin cancer, right? To the sun and the surf all over the world. And or I could be in Detroit with you, and I'd rather be in Detroit with you, okay?
That's great. Thanks. You know, we've known each other for a while, and I know your children and I have been just enormously impressed with their values, their lifestyles, and you did a great job raising them. How did you do that? Everybody here loves their kids, and you mentioned about creating an environment where we can pass our businesses down to our children, basically tax-free or something close to that. What did you do with your children to make them so responsible and so involved in everything that you do?
Well, I'm fortunate in that, you know, they're smart children. Many of you have smart, and some will have some that aren't so smart, and you have to understand that happens too, and that's all, and you're going to love them just as much. But, you know, I have smart children, and they've been good academically, et cetera, et cetera. But very importantly, I would always tell them, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And they'd go out, and Ivanka would say, Dad, stop telling me that. I said, I'm going to tell it to you every time I see you. I'm going to drive you wild with this. You're going to, no drugs, no alcohol. And I would say that. And I hope that, because who knows, right? But they don't have any of those problems. I mean, I've seen friends, very smart people, they have smart kids, but their kids get hooked on drugs or they get hooked on alcohol. Alcohol is, in many ways, like they tell me, I don't know. I never had a glass of alcohol. I had a great brother, who was a wonderful guy, but he had an alcohol problem. And he sort of do the same. He said, don't ever drink alcohol. He was, and he smoked, and you know, I put cigarettes in that same category, almost that same category, but they're certainly not good for you. But I would always tell my kids, because I've seen parents that had brilliant children, went to the best schools, they were great, but they got hooked on drugs or alcohol, and they never made it. They couldn't compete, basically. You know, they never made it. And many of them are dead. Many of them die. They die with this fentanyl that's coming in. I'm going to get that problem. I had that problem almost solved with President Xi, by the way. And I said, you have to impose the maximum penalty, or we're not going to, I would always talk about trade. We have the power of trade. And I said, well, we're just not going to get along on trade. Hence, I could do things like we talked about. I don't want to go into it, but we can do things. And he and I had a handshake on he was going to impose the maximum penalty on people that run companies that sell us through Mexico. Almost all of it comes through Mexico. And the maximum penalty is the death penalty. And he was going to impose that. And then we had the transfer power. And this guy came in and he didn't know what to do with anything. And so that went down the tubes. But one of the first things I'm going to do is talk to him about that, because they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending fentanyl into this country. And that would have really solved a lot of the problem. And the other thing I say, and it's not nice to settle like saying it, but, I've seen a lot of countries. I deal with all of them, and I know that all of them. And the only ones that don't have a drug problem are the ones that have the death penalty. We can set up all of our blue